have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. He talks about, in fact, the assassination attempt against him last summer. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then and believe even more so now that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. And he says that God saved him to make America great again, which really takes that formulation which he played with over the months even further than before. He is the savior now of the country. A tide of change is sweeping the country. Sunlight is pouring over the entire world. And America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before.
What this speech did not contain was an overture to those who didn't support it. We think of inaugural speeches as almost dutifully containing language that says, to those who didn't vote for me, right, I offer you this message.
Exactly.
That was not in this speech.
No, the words national unity were uttered. National unity is now returning to America. But you wouldn't have heard it a lot in the rest of the speech, right? He didn't say anything nice about his outgoing predecessor, Joe Biden, even though that's the tradition when a new president comes in to at least thank you for your service. Didn't do that. Didn't talk about bipartisanship. Today, I will sign a series of historic executive orders. With these actions, we will begin the complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense. He instead went for some of these wedge issues right from the start. It will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. He said he's going to get rid of government programs that promote diversity and inclusion. I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. And he even said that he would reinstate military service members who were discharged for refusing to have a vaccine during the COVID pandemic, even pay them back pay.
Which is, of course, rolling back a very specific President Biden policy.
Exactly. And I will sign an order to stop our warriors from being subjected to radical political theories and social experiments while on duty. It's going.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
How are you doing?
Doing good. You know, one day at a time.
Yeah.
So, trying to figure out what my personal strategy is going to be for news consumption over the next 4 years. Oh,
Yeah.
I
A lot of stuff going on right now.
Quite know how I was last night. Like Scott was like reading me like the, and I was like, I'm not ready. I no. So I haven't. I was like trying to listen to the daily this morning, and I was like, I don't know that I can.
He's on the move. He's making stuff happen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great. Yourselves?
Doing well.
Doing okay. I was just telling Dr. Judkins and trying to figure out how do you like productively and sanely engage with like media consumption in this
Oh, yeah.
political.
It's almost sounds like we might need to do a fast.
Which was like kind of my strategy for the last like 3
It's
months.
one way to
I was
handle
like,
it,
there's
just-
enough
yeah.
local things, Lord knows, to fill it in the blanks. But I was like, some of
Right.
this we actually do need to know so that we can like respond appropriately.
Yes.
And
I'm like,
also, how much?
what's
I
going to
don't know.
happen as a result? I was like, oh, what's this going to look like? So.
Keep hope alive.
So if you come up with a strategy of how to listen to just the right amount so that you can be like a responsible human being, informed, and it not to kill your soul, let me know.
Oh.
I'll take any and all advice.
Oh.
Anybody go to the parade yesterday?
I watched the on TV, but no, yeah.
I saw some of the like pictures coming out on Instagram from folks this morning, and it looked exuberant, which was nice.
Still something to follow. Like that's still important. I was trying to get my kids like to pay attention. They weren't.
Yeah.
Wow.
We are out of town, but usually our go-to is AVAM. Always does like a really good job with programming for Dr. Martin Luther King Day. So
Oh.
usually we're down there, but we weren't here this year.
Mm-mm. Yeah, usually it's pretty. Yeah. We usually drive by and we see a lot of the parade stuff. I don't think because I used to live right off of Martin Luther King.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I forgot. You used
So
to
to get
live like
home,
right
like-
there.
Yeah.
You were going to be participating whether you wanted to.
Whether
or
I
not.
wanted to or not, I was. Yeah. Mhm.
Mm.
Good morning.
Mean.
Hey,
Morning.
how you doing,
Good
Ashia?
morning.
I'm doing well for this single digit Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners, A. Messenger, Vice Chair Parker, anyone else? Dr. Judkins, I see you're on as well.
I am here, and Commissioner Mohammed will not be joining us this morning.
Okay. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to operations this morning. Good morning. My name is Andrew Coy, Commissioner Coy. I'd like to welcome you all to the January 21st, 2025 meetings of the Operations Committee. Certainly is a cold one out there today, and understanding that there's been a number of, 2-hour delay, obviously, that everyone's in a little bit different of a rhythm this morning, perhaps than usual, but appreciate you all being here. If you've not done so, please mute your phone. Anyone who does not mute their phone may be muted by the call moderator or removed from the call. Additionally, if you're not a board member or the CEO and her staff, please turn off your video. I'll now read a roll call to identify who is on the call. Please identify yourself first before speaking for the record. Commissioners Ames Messenger.
Ames Messenger present.
Vice Chair Parker.
Vice Chair Parker present.
And noting that we are excusing Commissioner Mohammed from today. Public comment. Members of the public who would like to provide public comment to this committee can do so by signing up beginning 9 a.m. the Thursday before the meeting until 5 p.m. the Monday before the meeting date. Individuals or groups who are interested in providing comments to the committee may sign up one of three ways. Contact the board office at 443-642-2095. Visit the board office at the Alice Pinder Hughes Building at 200 North Avenue, room 406, or email the board office at schoolboard@bcps.k12.md.us. Up to 5 individuals will be given the opportunity to provide comment to the operations committee. Speakers will be granted 3 minutes. All public comment should address operations related issues. Sign up is not permitted the day of the meeting. In addition, the chat feature during our virtual meetings will not be used as a tool for gathering feedback or answering questions from the public. If you have follow-up questions or feedback and did not sign up in advance to provide them during the committee meeting, please send an email to schoolboard@bcps.k12.md.us, and the board office staff will provide a response to you. On the note of public comment, Dr. Judkins, do we have any public comments that have signed up for today's agenda?
I'm not aware of any at this moment. We'll do one word check, but no at this time.
Okay. We do have a full agenda of presentations, noting that there are no compliance reports for today, and the procurement agenda is light, but happy to see a number of these updates. And first on the agenda, unless there's a reason to shift the order of operations, is a presentation on our technology plan and update. And I'll turn it over to Chief Tommy Jones and team. I always know that you present with your team and appreciate, and I see a number of folks here on the call there, but Chief Tommy.
As we wait for Chief Tommy to join, my name is Maxim Lapushin. I'm the Special Assistant here in the Office of Information Technology. I'm also joined today by Director Russell, Executive Director Elvis Tia, and Director Nick Smith. Let me go ahead and share my screen and we can get this presentation started. Okay, can everybody see the slides? Excellent, beautiful.
Yeah.
So, in terms of strategic board priorities, we seek to align with priority 3, 5, and 7, where the Office of Information Technology is always looking to create modern resources that are accessible by all of our stakeholders. That is our staff, our students, our parents, and everybody that seeks to work with city schools. We work to have equal access and equity. All of our policies, we strive that they become inclusive and available to everybody. In terms of our vision and mission, we are always seeking to be a trusted advisor and leader for technology in the school district. We work to be customer oriented and a partner with all of our different district offices and our families and students. I'm going to now pass it over to Director Russell.
Yes, good afternoon. Good morning. OIT has a vast and diverse footprint, technology footprint, from applications to AV systems, Chromebooks, as well as asset points. We have over 7,000 phones. Over the years, continually 5% increase in our technology footprint, stretching from 10,000 plus teachers and staff. We have over 70,000 students support of 160 schools. OIT staffing level still remains the same from FY24 to 25, while our devices continue to, and application continues to increase year over year. Next slide, please. Speaking of technology device inventory, before 2024, the district used many different types of methods to inventory our devices. We use smart sheets, Excel, Infinite Campus, Active Directory. There was no single source of truth. In 2020, 2020, we have approximately 20,000 devices active, and now 2024 through 25, we have approximately 80,000 active devices. One of the things that we were able to do is acquire an asset management system. And having that system, we are able to follow our devices from cradle to grave. and being able to maintain and understand our inventory and make decisions. Current state, we have now a asset management system, and this system allows us to understand what we have. We have a dashboard. We can look at the number of devices that we have in the schools, understand our replacement rate, as well as understanding breakage, and make informed decisions in device management. Again, we were able to manage from cradle to grave, and with the asset management system, we now have a source of truth. And I'll turn this over to Elvis.
Thank you, Alan. So this is Elvis here, Executive Director for Cybersecurity and Infrastructure for City Schools. The slide you see in front of you is just a depiction of how much we have been able to get through grants from since 2021. We were able to acquire 13.9 million from ECF, 1.3 million from E-rate programs, 10 million from ESSA, and we recently applied for 3 million grant for cybersecurity. Fortunately for us, we were approved for 2.4 million. We just received that information this past Friday, which is a big thing. So we're looking forward to making sure we invest into our cybersecurity infrastructure to make sure we are more protected. And just to add, this was a big deal because of 3,000 applicants, there were 700 LEAs that were awarded. And of the 700, there were 2 LEAs in the state of Maryland, and we were one of the 2. So that's a big deal. So since 2019, we've learned a lot in terms of how to deliver our services to our staff and students. Prior to 2019, we struggled with, adhering to situations that were outside of our capacity in terms of students having to go to school from home and things like that. But our current infrastructure now has the capacity to pivot whenever needed. We are in the position where we can support virtual schooling, meaning students going to school from home as well as in school, and even if it's both, we have the capacity to deliver the services. Additionally, we also have expanded our cloud service to support business continuity, meaning if for some reason they will have some issues on perm, we have a third data center, because we have 3 data centers now, the cloud being the third one as backup, to be able to access our resources to support instructions in schools. One of the biggest things we did was to enhance our infrastructure in terms of internet speed. We also did factor in the physical security of our staff and students in the schools and headquarters. Prior to 2021, we had about little over 320 phones throughout the district. And the thing about that was that if there was something going on in the classroom, that means the staff had to leave the classroom and go to the main office to make a call. Even in the event where they needed to contact maybe 911, the staff had to go to the main office to make a call. Currently, we have over 7,000 voice over IP phones spread out throughout our district, which enables the staff now to sit in the classroom and call a parent. And if there's something going wrong, the staff doesn't have to leave the classroom to go to the main office and leave the students unattended. So now they can stay in the classroom and call the main office. They can call 911 from the classroom. We are not 100%, but from 320 phones to 7,000 phones throughout the district, we are pretty comfortable, but we still got more to do. But that's a great increase, and the security alone is a big deal. In addition to that, we now have little over 7,000 access points throughout our school buildings. And we made sure that no student is more than 30 feet away from an access point, because almost every student is assigned a device, meaning the students are mobile and they need access. So that's a big deal. And this initiative now supports students to be able to do the testing without any interference, because every student will have a device assigned to him or her. The third item here is our bandwidth for students. So prior to 2021, I would say 2020, we started to put our internet WAN throughout the streets. And what that means is that elementary schools now, the internet in elementary schools are 100 times faster than it was before. And for high school, it's 10 times faster than what it was before. But there's another big thing. Prior to us doing the dark fiber implementation, which is, putting out our own fiber into the schools, whenever there was a testing going on, it's either that the school had to shut down the video camera surveillancing because the internet speed wasn't adequate to support the testing, or something else had to be shut down or throttle, as we say in IT, or reduce the speed just to enable students to do the testing. Now everything happens at the same time. Students can do the testing in all schools at all times, at any time they want to. At the same time, school police can watch whatever is going on through the surveillance camera. Additionally, staff and teachers can make phone calls without any interference. So this is a big deal. This is, in short, every school has adequate internet speed they need to do the work they want to do. And we have the capacity to increase the speed if the need arises. Next. From a security perspective, this is just in a nutshell. I think recently we all heard about PowerSchool having an issue. There's a lot of cybersecurity incidents going on. And City School is doing its best to make sure our staff and students are well protected. If you look at this screen right here, you can see how the incidents continue to rise over the years. For fiscal year 25, if you look at fiscal year 25, you see that we have a lot of attacks, a lot of surveillance, reconnaissance, a lot of things going on. This is a high-level summary. We look to providing more in-depth information to the board in a closed session to let them know exactly what is going on. But I just wanted everybody to know as well that what we do in OIT in terms of protecting us, we also do seek the indulgence of federal, state, and local professionals. We have Homeland Security checking us every day. We make sure we are in contact with them. In case of anything, they reach out to us directly and we'll take the necessary actions. So there are a lot of things we would like to disclose, but not at this this presentation. And hopefully we'll have the opportunity to inform the cabinet and the board in a closed session of the things that are happening. Bottom line, we are still safe. Knock on wood, we are okay. Everything is going fine. We're going to do our best to make sure we remain protected. Next. I will pass this over to Max.
Thanks, Elvis. As you know, the administrative modernization project is ongoing, and there are different parts of it. One of the things that we are definitely excited about upcoming for 2025 is we are phasing in a new learning management system that's under phase 3 there. Additionally, we are currently doing the work to move. We have the time clocks installed in schools, and we're doing the work with our different stakeholders to make sure that payroll proceeds. Excuse me, that sounds strange. That to make sure that we're doing all the steps to ensure payroll has no hiccups. In terms of phase 2, we are working on creating a new budget amendment app. That way our departments can get funding allocated to their different cost centers as needed. And as you know, in July 2023, we went live with our Fusion system for our finance. Now I'll pass it over to Elvis.
Thanks, Matt. So moving forward, there are a few things we're going to upgrade. We have some systems that need to be fully updated. We are looking to replacing our LMS system with a new system, which it will have the capacity to do a lot of things that our current system is unable to do. And we will provide a special presentation on that once we have the system go live. The next thing is the safety at district headquarters. So in the past 2 weeks, we have outfitted our main entrances with card readers. every employee that is assigned to headquarters will have to badge in. The current employee ID now has the capacity to enable them to badge into the building. There will be a next phase where they will also have to badge into the offices. This is about physical security, and we feel much better now that we were able to make sure that we have secured the perimeters. All of our entrances into the building are now protected. So that's a big deal. And then the third thing we're working on is AI within our district. AI is a big deal. It's coming from all perspectives in different forms and fashions, and everybody's excited about it, but it has to be restricted. OIT is piloting AI in our department to understand how our offices can leverage in the innovative technology, at the same time making sure our students are safe and our staff are also not falling in the hands of the adversaries. So again, these are the things we're working on, and once we get them to a state where we can do a full presentation for the board to see what we have achieved, we will be glad to do that. Questions and comments?
Thank you for that presentation. I'll turn it to some of my colleagues for questions they might have first.
Yes, I'll go. So mine is more, I guess, personal, and it could also apply to the commissioners. What is the best way for us to get our ID switched over? I know when I came in the office, it wasn't the day I was there. Should we bring the ID back? Should we call in to IT? What's the best way, since we're kind of, we're not full-time and we're not on site all the time?
Well, for all of our commissioners, we're going to come and make sure we replace your IDs. We're going to make sure we replace the ID with the new IDs. So yeah, you don't have to come to us. We'll make sure our staff come to you, because we want to make sure that you have access to what you have access to. So right now, the phase one was to make sure everywhere is protected, and now we are working our way through with all of our staff members. So we will make sure that your IDs can access that. That's a action item for us right now.
Yeah, we can work through the board.
Just to add, Commissioner Parker, if you are able to contact the board office, we're able to liaise with them to make sure that you're able to get the proper IDs and the proper access.
Yes, thank you. We've ordered new IDs for all the commissioners. They just haven't arrived yet, so we'll have them ready for you.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Commissioner Messenger, James Messenger.
So a couple of questions. First of all, I thought just I want to commend you for looking at and seeking finding around and getting in a really competitive grant process, it sounds, for the cybersecurity. And just I think as we enter a phase where other streams of funding are less secure and less plentiful than maybe we've been used to, would like to commend just that creativity and problem solving. So thank you. Well done and congratulations. The other, just kind of two questions, and this is kind of more of a philosophical approach, so answer it as you would like. Looking specifically at the budget app and the rollout of the LMS, are both of those ones that we will have created in-house? Are we working with contractors, and kind of what's the long-term strategy around that? Also considering there's immediate cost, but there's also long-term cost of maintenance. And so if we are building those in-house, that long-term cost then sits on the district. And also when things begin to break gradually over time, as code does, that like kind of what's the strategy for making sure that we have meaningful upgrades and features, et cetera, over time.
Thank you.
And what was maybe the logic of why we went the way we did?
Let me take this one, Ellis.
All right, Chief.
So, good morning, Commissioners. First of all, my apologies for being late. I had a personal issue I had to deal with. But addressing the two questions, the LMS that we're buying is a 100% cloud-based commercial off-the-shelf product. Now, that does not mean we are not asking them to make extensions and so forth, as we always do. But we are configuring versus writing code. So that has a lot of long-term, as long as we pay our subscription costs, and some certain integrations, which is the biggie, that's always a cost, no matter what, is the integrations that sits on us. The budget app, we attempted to do a 100% off the shelf along with Fusion. And unfortunately, the way city schools budget, nobody else budgets. So we have been able to take maybe say the skeleton or pieces of the Fusion budget app, but we've really had to do a lot of it as in-house custom work, unfortunately. And that will fall on our shoulders. But you know, a little bit of a trade-off. It falls on our shoulders, but we don't have to pay the subscription. But we are trying, going forward, we have a policy of buying everything we can buy versus building it. And this can get very philosophical, and I won't get there. I'm a buy person because trying to keep the technical talent and as the technology changes to keep up with all this is extraordinarily difficult and not very quick. But buying has its own issues of that subscription, cost goes up, you're not tied to the vendor. So I won't go into it here, but you know, just to answer your question, but we do, it's basically a custom budget app and a purchased LMS.
I really appreciate just laying out of that philosophical philosophical approach as we're new to the board. Which vendor are we going with for LMS, for the LMS?
Product called Canvas and KickUp. It's an integration of their two products. They provide very different, capabilities.
Thank you. And will be universal. So that will be replacing everything across student and staff.
Yes.
Learning.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we will eventually migrate off of Blackboard entirely and use LMS for everybody. Use the Canvas and KickUp for everybody.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
A follow-up question on the topic of the budget that I have, understanding, realizing that the blueprint for Maryland education is requiring more districts across the state of Maryland to be, frankly, more like Baltimore City's budgeting process, where dollars are decided at the local school level. Yeah. I can only imagine that there is a growing set of requirements that will look more similar to us. What efforts are being made to collaborate across districts in the state of Maryland around some of these budgeting processes, and perhaps to have some of the vendors align perhaps to some of those requirements at a greater scale and lower cost, perhaps, in doing so across all districts in Maryland?
Before I answer that, one of the finance office people may want to jump in first. I see.
Can you guys hear me?
Stephanie's on here. Yep, go ahead.
Good question, Commissioner Coy. So we are in constant communication with the other districts. This is far more nuanced probably than you would expect, though, in terms of how everyone interprets and applies the applications of the blueprint. So even this year, there have been changes in some of the rulings, that are associated with the blueprint that have forced us to rethink our own calculations. So that's part of why, like Chief Tommy implied earlier, it's really very difficult to get an out-of-the-box solution that can cater to everything that it is that we need to do. It's almost changing on a yearly basis. So there isn't yet really a strong consensus. We did pitch that, in our work with our implementer as part of an opportunity for them, in working with us and trying to tailor their tool to match what our needs are. They might create a market for the other LEAs in Maryland as well, where they can get that, those sales. But still, there's a long way to go between getting the out-of-the-box product to where it is we need our final, to be.
No, I appreciate that, and certainly know that there's lots of work, and it will be a work in progress as the full implementation is underway for that funding approach. Another sort of question and topic that I have, and this goes to the referencing of artificial intelligence, AI, as it relates to and perhaps at a more philosophical level as well, to borrow that from Commissioner Messenger in terms of the question. The framing was a little bit that it, I guess the words were it has to be restricted. And I guess my encouragement, and I do think us as board commissioners have a role to play in developing our own understanding and orientation that we would like to lead the district in adopting, is not one of that it has to be restricted, but it does have to be better understood. And we do need to understand, a variety of things relating to how it's being used, in what ways it's being used, how we are anticipating that, how we are encouraging and discouraging certain applications of it. But I would just sort of put here that the general philosophical framing is not purely one of it has to be restricted, and happy to engage into a conversation, perhaps offline more, as that approach is being developed. It's a rapidly changing, obviously, landscape. But just wanted to put that statement there. I don't know if any of my other commissioners want to add a thought before a response from you all here or separately offline.
Agreed.
Nope, good.
I'll do a quick response. I don't know what was said before because I'm late to the party, which I apologize for, but I do want to make sure the word restrictive is not overly emphasized. We are looking at AI. We are developing co-pilots. We are working with academics and other groups to write the rules, the guidelines. I actually literally had a conversation with a former boss, a VP of a commercial product, commercial company, and he has spent the last 2 years, he said, every single day of his retirement working with AI. What comes up of this more than anything else, the word restricted, is we are very concerned about how AI pulls in data to give perspective, knowing where it came from, and then our data being added to the collective. That data is of students and teachers. So we don't look at it, I don't look at it, so I don't hope I'm not contradicting one of my colleagues here. I don't look at it as restricted. I look at it as carefully monitored and managed. So that's our sort of mantra here is let's be careful, let's pay attention to it, let's be sure we're managing it and monitoring. And we went to the annual AI conference, sorry about this buzzer in the background, down in Annapolis, a month ago, and met with a bunch of the other CAOs, CIOs, some speakers from across the nation, some people who had done some AI pilots with schools and not had the greatest outcome. And they were saying exactly what we were saying. In fact, they complimented Baltimore on being sort of on the leading edge of carefully managing and evaluating. AI is here. There is nothing that we're going to do to stop it, and we're not trying to. We are just trying to be cautious and pay attention so that we know what we are giving it and what it's telling us. So that's why I said I don't want to use the word restricted, but but that's the mantra here.
Yeah, and perhaps the thing that I'm reflecting on in this conversation is there's a need and a role for the board to play as it relates to setting policy with respect to AI. And I do think that we as a board should engage in a thoughtful, rigorous conversation around the ways in which it should very much be better understood, better monitored, certain aspects, especially around student data, being restricted what is flowing to the AI, large language models or other systems, how for-profit companies are then absorbing data, and thinking about how to best equip our students for the world that is here now and that will be in their future, in all of our future. So anticipating that conversation, just reflecting that we as a board should definitely find the time and space to engage in this in whatever way that makes sense. So entrusting that as a follow-up item Dr. Judkins for conversation with, I'm sure, Vice Chair Parker, yourself, and Chair Sally on how and where we as a board can engage in a conversation. Okay, so that's other.
last
Yeah, go for it. No, go for it.
I guess the last question is just reflecting kind of on the budget sources and looking at ESSER that had kind of exited, looking at for the ECF funds, and kind of just like what are the big pots of money that you're looking at coming is like we have really successfully done this huge investment to successfully transition students to a one-to-one device. We also realize that as the parent of early elementary school students, those devices get a lot of wear and, you know, like equipping your first grader with a device, you're going to have some replacement issues. So although I will also say just hands off, like I'd like to acknowledge the district as the parent of a first grader and watching the ways that she is interacting and the way that that has been normed inside of her classroom and within the school about the use of technology, safe technology, making that easily accessible for our really young learners, that is an incentive, but is also not like a driver of culture. So just well done to that team. I know that's a difficult thing to thread, but going to the cost issue, we've made this initial investment. Kind of what are the funding streams that we're looking for to sustain that over time?
So I'll answer part of this, but Courtney or Stephanie, you all may want to jump in too. I'm just going to very quickly. We have very aggressively worked with our vendors to try to identify. That's how we were able to come up with this last one. But they are telling us, and I'm sure Courtney is going to back this up, or don't back it up. I love you to tell me I'm wrong, Courtney, but that these streams are flat out drying up. We're like getting the last tranches. And so much of what we've done this year in the budget conversation has been about what is the annual cost to maintain these devices. We were I'm just going to say we were smart last year in that we were able to do a little bit of pre-buying with funds that were already available, but that was last year. Next year is the shock of what it costs to maintain this. And we've had discussions, academic have had discussions about where it's got to be 100% one-to-one versus, some in the classroom. They're having a conversation. How long we're going to stay as a, virtual learning district. So those conversations are hot and heavy in the cabinet meetings and the retreats and the budget planning. So we are very much trying to prepare for it. And I honestly don't have a good answer at the moment, except that the team is working very hard to try to stay on par. Courtney or Stephanie, you may have a better answer than I do.
No, you're hitting it right on the head. That's the crux of some of our budget conversations this year. So the landscape, post-ESSER, post-COVID grants, in addition to which, as we know, there are proposals for what the Kerwin budget looks like this year, which are less optimistic than what we had hoped. So we're forced to be a lot more thoughtful and strategic in terms of how we align resources. It's a lot more braiding. It's a lot more kind of pulling from the different pots and different strings, and ultimately prioritizing certain items over other. So that really is the conversation for the fiscal year 26 budget development process.
One note that I'd made to self to follow up with you all about, but I'll lift it up here with your question, Commissioner Messenger, is on slides 4 and 6. There was some great reference of what has happened over the past year, which is pretty phenomenal. I would love to see a retrospective over the past 9 years. Does that happen right now, right? But thinking forward to even a year from now, when next January comes around and we'll have the technology update, if it follows the pattern that we've established over the past couple of years, I would love to see a retrospective of just how much has changed in the past 10 years. Because, and that's, I can only imagine how overwhelming that list will be to compile, given how much you all have done. The only thing more overwhelming than compiling the list is having done it all. But I just think about the progress, the response to unprecedented times of virtual learning, sudden transitions, and would love to see that retrospective celebrating the tremendous accomplishments of this administration, this district, Dr. Sanlisas, and your leadership, all of you that are here doing this work. And so would love to see kind of that list developed and then shared over the next year. And as a complement to that, a thoughtful documentation of these standard operating procedures, the things that you all have learned as you have been doing this work, that we should put, like what you have outlined, some of the learning management systems in place to really document and to make this. I know that's part of your practice. That's what you've been doing with so many of the different systems, but just wanted to underscore a thoughtful transition and that knowledge being documented and celebrated as well. So those are just two things I'll underscore for work to be done over this next year in celebrating all that you are doing.
And I think just to add to that a little bit of realizing like how interdisciplinary that effort is.
Yes,
and
yes.
like as a parent, as working, like previously working in the district, collaborating with people that are still working in the district like that, so much of that is also changing human behavior. And I think documenting like what are some of those lessons learned in moving children and adults and parents kind of collectively as a whole to understanding this new kind of the new world order that we are in, and that you have had a lot of successes there, but also maybe realizing some of the things that we've learned along the way and capturing some of the missteps that you have corrected or in the course of correcting. But again, as a parent, just really hats off, well done.
Thank you. And we will do that, but I have to make this one quick comment. We in OIT get a lot of credit for the technology and the things that have been rolled out, and quite honestly, we deserve it. But we would not have been able to do it if finance in particular hadn't been standing right there on our shoulders helping us out. They did so much to make the money flow, make the money work. So I have to make that public statement, because like I said, we get a lot of credit. Thank you, but it's partners that make it work.
Absolutely. Any other items here on the technology update, commissioners? Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda, we have a supplemental appropriation, and we have a number of supplemental appropriations here in sequence. Happy to either, if it makes sense, when presenting, to present the collection of them and then ask questions individually, or for us to ask questions individually. Commissioners, which way would you like to approach these supplemental appropriations?
I will leave that up to finance. I have no preference.
Yeah.
Okay, feel free to present them collectively and then we can ask questions about each one individually.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is Marian Cox. I'm the Deputy Chief Financial Officer for City Schools. And I'd like to extend the greetings on behalf of CFO Chris Daugherty to the Ops Committee Chair, the Ops Committee Commissioners, City School staff members, and of course our community partners. Today we're going to be speaking about 4 separate supplemental appropriations, which will actually be submitted for board approval at 2 different public board meetings. The total of the 4, and we don't usually present that many at one time, the total of these 4 is just short of $49 million. So I can break them out. We can speak about them individually, whatever you like. Just kind of in summary, of the $49 million in supplemental appropriations, 2 of them relate a lot to the construction work. So we have $35.7 million for the construction augmentation high school plan that's Poly City and Western. And we also have $1.5 million that relates to the funding match required from City Schools for the City Springs elementary school.
And one comment that I'll just clarify in terms of collectively presenting them, feel free to do so in sequence to like go through each one. It's not that you have to speak about them all together, but just that we won't be pausing for questions in between each one. Yeah.
That's fine. And actually, Cindy Smith will be offering the programmatic information as well. She's from the ops office. Just a little bit of background. These type of expenditures align with board priorities 3, 5, and 7. And of course, that relates to facilities, to that city schools will have modernized facilities to support the success of students, educators, administrators, and staff. We also do a priority 5, which is city schools will provide equal access to district services, resources, and facilities to ensure the success. And priority 7, which is city schools will continuously work towards equity at all levels by implementing policies, practices, and procedures that create a welcoming and inclusive academic and professional environment. So all of them, and just kind of stepping back, these 4 supplemental appropriations some of them cover multiple projects for a single supplemental appropriation. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. The way we process supplemental from an accounting standpoint is that we do this in accordance with board policy DIG, where, as we recollect, the CEO has, as the board's designee, has the authority to place projects in general fund assigned fund balance. So all of these projects that we're talking about, we are presenting to the board for permission to take the funding from general fund assigned fund balance and move it to the capital projects fund, where it will be expended on capital type projects. So that's really what we're doing. It's an accounting, accounting function for the most part, where we are asking permission to be able to spend these funds that have already been set aside. So I believe the first one that we have here is $1.5 million, which relates to a transfer from general fund to the capital projects fund to fund the city schools elementary project, the funding match that is required from city schools. And Cindy Smith can speak on that, or some of them are. Cindy, are you available to speak a little bit?
Here. Hi, Cindy Smith, Executive Director for Facilities Planning, Design, and Construction. This first one is for the City Springs Elementary Middle School project. We are replacing the City Springs building as part of a project with the city that they're doing in conjunction with the Perkins Somerset Home Redevelopment Project. So we, per our MOU with the city, we committed to putting in $1.5 million into the funding pot for that. The majority of the funding is coming through the city, however.
Okay. Does the Ops Committee Commissioner want to ask questions as we go along, or should we wait?
We'll go through each one of them and we'll ask questions at the end.
Okay, that's fine. Jonathan, can we see the next one? This one is a supplemental appropriation where we are asking to transfer funds from general fund assigned fund balance to capital projects for elevator upgrade projects. So this is 3.6 million, and this will be multiple projects. And Cindy Smith will talk about which buildings we're upgrading now.
So this would be for 5 elevators. So as you may or may not be aware, many of our elevators are unfortunately in poor or a non-operable condition, and they do often get bumped from the systemic capital list due to larger needs more, bigger needs at other schools. In addition, where we don't have operable elevators, impacts our students being able to get to classrooms where they need to. This fund will pay for roughly 5 elevators. Elevator pricing has increased significantly in the last year due to the electronics in them. So we've had to increase the estimates for our elevators recently. We currently have 34 elevators that are beyond useful life, or so basically barely or not operational at all, or buildings that don't have elevators at all. We do have several buildings that don't have any elevators at all. And just so we're aware, via assigned fund balance projects since 2001, FY 2001, we've been able to replace 15 elevators this way that we would not have been able to otherwise, and adding these 5 makes that 20. So, this is making a big dent in our non-operable elevator list.
Okay. This next request is the largest of the 4 supplemental appropriations relating to multiple projects. But as you can see, it's a request to move $35.7 million from the general fund assigned fund balance for the high school plan construction augmentation funding for renovations for City College, Western, and Poly. So this is a large amount and relates to the buildings, and Cindy Smith will also speak about why we have the funding gap.
So as I think everybody knows, construction prices have just so increased over the last several years. They have been a little bit out of control. We are doing the high schools as part of the Built to Learn funding pot, but that money is just not quite enough to do our largest high schools. So City College, Western, and Poly are all part of that Built to Learn funding allocation. And there just isn't quite enough to do it. We believe, based on the current estimate that we received for City College not that long ago, that this will get very close, if not completely close the gap that we had for City College. So fingers crossed we don't have a whole lot more increase between now and when we start construction to make that gap jump again. But this will also then put additional money towards Western and Poly to continue to close the gap there. We are expecting that we will need additional money for both of those in the next year to be able to close those as well. But this puts money towards those at least.
Okay, and this is the 4th. This a supplemental appropriation is the amount of $8.2 million. To transfer general fund assigned fund balance to the capital projects fund for FF&E and technology for Armour State Gardens, Northeast, Mary G. Faring, and Furley. So Cindy Smith is going to, so this is technology and FF&E, and Cindy will speak about why we need to put these costs out now.
So the state did, as part of the Built to Learn Act, agree to fund furniture, not technology, but furniture as part of the Built to Learn funding, as well as for capital in the future. However, these 5 projects were funded prior to that act and that going into place. So we do have to pay for the furniture. In addition, Built to Learn does not cover technology, period. And obviously, as part of these, of course, we're making sure we have the most recent technology in all of our learning spaces, and that our teachers have the most recent technology to be able to teach our students. So this allocation will provide technology and furniture for these 5 projects that were before FF&E was an allowable expense as part of capital funding.
Okay. Okay, so are there any questions? Again, these items were all placed in the general fund assigned fund balance and reported as so in our audited financial statements through the fiscal year ending June 30th. But we, the CEO has the authority as the board designee to place it, but when we want to expend the money, we come to the board and ask permission to, or approval to move the funding from the general fund to the capital projects fund for these these are typically larger capital projects.
First question before I open it up to other commissioners. You referenced that these would be presented to the full board in two separate
That's right.
instances. Can you outline which ones on what anticipated timeline for being presented to the board?
Certainly, of these 4 separate supplemental appropriation, only the one for the elevators, the $3.6 million for the multiple elevator projects, that will be presented at the public board meeting on February 11th. The other 3, so that's the high school construction augmentation plan, the City Springs funding match, and the FF&E technology will be presented for board approval at the January 28th public board meeting.
Questions from other commissioners?
I had one. As far as the elevators, have we worked with the ONI to make sure these are buildings that we are considering to keep open at least for the next 5 to 10 years before we invest that kind of money?
Yes, we do work with them. I know that there was one listed. We primarily get the list from maintenance, of course, and our list of elevators that don't work. There is one listed that I know, for example, we closed the charter, but we're retaining the building. So I will connect with ONI. It is possible that we'll swap that particular school for a different school on the list, but once I connect with ONI.
All right.
Kind of along similar lines, was just checking that, so for Bliss and Hampstead Hill, those are both district-owned buildings rather than
Those are both district-owned buildings, yes.
A broader question or comment rather that I have is, certainly I appreciate you all bringing this to the operations committee and flagging as these are significant in size. Obviously there's been a tremendous amount of investment in buildings and new buildings over the past couple of years. These ones certainly have been, as I look at the schools here that are in question for the high school construction, these are schools that come towards the tail end of a number of major building construction projects, and wanting that context certainly to be front and center for folks as they're reviewing. I do think, Vice Chair, it would be prudent for us to message out to other commissioners just to flag these items that are coming, given their size, to make sure that if any questions other commissioners have relating to them or want to understand how these do fit into the larger comprehensive plans, which certainly have been presented at various times over the past year. And I imagine we are likely due for a comprehensive plan sometime this spring. You all could tell me probably better when the cadence is for that. But I do think it's been a minute since we've had that presentation. So it might be prudent just to provide a separate email out to commissioners ahead of next Tuesday that's connecting back to how the comprehensive plan can be found here. And then these items are coming up because it is more administrative in nature, and yet it could raise some questions that I wouldn't want to then negatively impact the administration of these funds in this way, right? These are things that have been in conversation for a long time, but let's bring that front and center. Any other questions or items on the supplemental appropriations here?
A follow-up on a slightly different, if just providing a little more information about the City Springs overall strategy, while not necessarily tied to this budgetary item. I'm just looking at the timetable for construction there. It's my understanding that they've finally been able to get access and begin to make some headway on those facilities. So looking at kind of updated timelines for that, given the fact that and we're locked in at that 1.5. That won't be reflective of changing construction. Okay. And then the last thing is just like also realizing, is there any other sorts of costs that we would want, realizing that students are returning to that community as housing is opening up, and just making sure that we have sustainable facilities in that building while we wait for that wildly fluctuating timetable for things that we have no control over.
So, as a general update, as part of the MOU, we are not in charge of the demolition of the Lombard building. The city is. And so we've been working with them to move that forward. However, their timeline does not quite align with our timeline currently. We're meeting with them. I believe it's next week that I meet with them again to talk about that, to see what we can do to expedite that a little bit, because we are on a timeline that would have us start construction in the spring of 26. Which would then open the building roughly 2 and some change after that, because we don't open just randomly, right? So we'd open in the summer of 28. We need to make sure that their demolition timeline can be expedited a little bit to speed up to match ours. The MOU does clearly define that our contribution is $1.5 million. There is language in there about, what happens if construction funding isn't enough, if it bids, like there's like, who puts in more money. We won't know anything about that for another year until, we're ready to bid, and award, that project. As far as what bids are coming in at, we are looking already at, as we look at the design, we always look very, very closely at making sure that we are making very smart and intelligent choices during design to make sure that our costs are coming in where they need to, but also making sure that we are building a building that can be maintained over its lifespan. In regards to the existing building, we are working with O&I and Principal Ricketta, as well as the BCP the team with the charter school, to make sure that we can accommodate the growth in population, and then how we might be able to accommodate that. So that's also ongoing conversations that we're having with them, because we do know that students are coming back and the building is not built yet. So, and where we can go with that.
Thank you.
And additional information, the CIP update will be in the next couple months. So additional information about all of those projects will be in that as well.
No, wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay, so in terms of all agenda, I guess next on the agenda, we do not have any compliance reports. We do have one item for procurement. Director Matthews, I believe I'd like to see if.
I'm going to be giving the procurement.
Okay.
Yep,
yes, please.
So my name is Catherine Kamenecki. Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm a contracts administrator with the Office of Procurement. And we just have one procurement item. And this is section 1801. And the chief legal officer requests the board's approval for a contract increase with Carney, Callahan, Bresler, Bennett, and Share. And this is an increase of $150,000 for a total contract of $250,000. And the contract term is September 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025.
Any questions on this item? Okay. And returning back, Dr. Judkins, to the question about public comments, do we have any public comment signups?
There are none today.
Okay. So with that, we have reached the end of the items on the agenda. Do my fellow commissioners have any items that you would like to, or things you would like to bring up here at the close of the meeting?
No, just the last procurement that we heard. Is that going to be on 128 or 211?
Sorry, I got up.
We'll give her 1 second just to look up
Sorry, my
which date
computer
that's coming in front of
This
us.
is most likely going to be on the January 28th agenda, if there's no questions that result in a change to the actual procurement item.
Great. And just moving forward for all of our staff, when presentations are made, if you could include in your presentation when it'll be coming before the board, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. But that's all the questions and comments that I had. Thank you all for your hard work.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining. We're obviously ending a few minutes early here this morning, but appreciate all of the work going into the smooth and thoughtful operations that support our students in the day-to-day learning that is going on. It makes it possible for them to learn in safe, warm, clean, and caring spaces. So with that, we will end Operations Committee call for January 21st, 2025. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you very much.